the smell is just too much. Like I must have was trying to eat
some tuna, y'all. Tuna. You gotta go. Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, thank you so much for joining me, and if you're not, welcome back. My name is Sierra, and today's video I am here with a special guest, my son Kyrie, and I'm going to be giving you guys my labor and delivery story. And Bay is going to come in later on and give his thoughts and his perspective during the process as well, so stay tuned for that. But yes, if you guys are not already following, please be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that bell notification so you don't miss out on any of my uploads. And without further ado, let's jump to the video. Alright, so Kyrie was born on May 20th, 2020 at 9:23 p.m. He was scheduled to be due on May 22nd, so he came 2 days early, a little bit leading up to his due date and me going into labor. On that Monday, that would have been the 18th, I had a doctor's appointment scheduled, and we scheduled this appointment. This would have been my last appointment, obviously, before my delivery, my scheduled delivery. And at that point, I was 1 to 2 centimeters dilated. Because we were approaching his due date, the doctor wanted to schedule a induction for the following Tuesday, so that would have been after Memorial Day. Just in case he didn't come on his due date, they just wanted to have that scheduled. So we did have an induction scheduled. However, I was like, I don't want no type of induction. I didn't want any medicine unless I medically had to. After the doctor had scheduled the induction, he also ended up giving me a sweep. Basically, a sweep is where they take 2 fingers and they kind of just break up the membranes of the cervix, and he said that that should really get things started. He also said more than likely the sweep was going to kickstart labor. And yeah, so after I left my appointment, I spoke to my doula, and she had told me, we started talking about natural ways of going into labor. And she recommended primrose oil, and that is basically a supplement that helps ripen up the cervix and thin out the cervix. I was a little iffy. I did do my research on it, and I didn't see too much stuff about it. I know a lot of midwives and doulas recommend primrose oil, but I was a little scared because I didn't want anything to be a problem. So like I said, I was a little nervous, but I went to CVS and I was like, okay, I'm gonna get this. And I also had Bae get red raspberry leaf tea. So the next day, Tuesday, I decided, I was like, okay, I'm gonna take 2 of these pills. Now they recommend that you take 3 a day, but I was like, that's a lot. And I also talked to one of my midwife friends, and she recommended that you put the pill in your vagina. And that will seriously help, like, ripen up the cervix. But again, scary me, I did not want to do that. So I just took 2 pills orally. I took a morning one and I took one at lunch. And then for dinner, I was like, no, I feel like that's a lot. So I didn't take the 3rd one. And then that night, we ended up going for a walk around the apartment complex, and then I was just joking. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do some squats. So I ended up doing, I think, 10 squats.
Okay. 8. Okay. 9. Okay, and 10. Okay.
Turn around and
Whoosh. What he gonna do? What is gonna happen? Come on, now hit these stadiums. Hit these stadiums, guys. Oh, okay. Okay.
So when I got back into the apartment, I did like some of my exercises on my medicine ball, just opening up my hips and just doing some stretches. And then I was like, let me take a bath, because again, my doula had sent me a whole bunch of information on how we can naturally induce labor. Again, it was pineapples, primrose oil, baths, walking, sex, those were all of like the natural ways that you can induce labor. So I ended up taking a bath with some Epsom salt, and then once I got out of the bath, I took a shower. Oh, she also recommended nipple stimulation. And basically with nipple stimulation, when your nipples are stimulated, it sends a hormone, the same hormone that helps with contractions, I believe, and I believe it's oxytocin. And so they say that helps with the start of contractions as well. So after I got out of the shower, I did do a little bit of breast stimulation, and then I laid down and I was just chilling. Then I ended up going to the restroom. I had to go to the bathroom, and when I got up, there was water that leaked out of me. So I told Bae, and then I walked towards him, and some more liquid trickled out. And I was like, I don't know if that's my water or not, because you know, there's different ways your water can break, like, or it can trickle. So I called Sarah, and I was like, I think my water just broke, and I explained it. We went over color, smell, time. And this was all stuff that I learned in my labor and delivery class, and so we went over that. She was like, yep, more than likely that was your water. She recommended that I wait an hour before calling the doctor, because she wanted to make sure that my contractions started shortly after. And that way, when we got to the hospital, there was no type of interference or unnecessary interference. So my goal was to labor at home as long as possible, but she did explain that when your water breaks, that's indication like you gotta go to the doctor. Shortly after, my contractions did start, and they were about 5 minutes apart. I ended up calling the doctor after an hour. They were like, come on in and we'll check you out. And yeah, so we got all of our stuff and we headed to the hospital. And once we got to the hospital, we checked into triage, and she confirmed that my water was broke. And she checked my cervix, and at that point, I believe I was either 3 or 4 centimeters. So.
Have you been hurting since your water broke, or just the water broke? Okay. If you had to rate the pain on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being no pain, 10 being the worst thing you ever felt in your life, what would you say it was?
I would say it's gradual, so it's probably about, I'd say a 6 right now.
Okay.
Well, 5 to 6.
5 to 6? Okay.
Yeah.
Now you're really loud. Alright.
And I'm not really expecting to be in there for too long, so I just sit the bags down on the side, like as if I don't need to unpack or anything, because we're not about to be here that long. We're about to end up upstairs, and we're about to go upstairs, and the baby gonna be here, you know. And then I'm thinking like, all right, maybe it's gonna be a few hours here, and like she told y'all, these hours were passing. We wasn't going anywhere.
Nowhere.
I'm so tired. Like,
You?
I'm so tired. And I feel I would have felt so bad if I would have went to sleep and let her deal with it on her own. So I'm, fighting my sleep.
And he says that so honestly, because he could sleep through a lot. Yes. So it was possible if he went to sleep that he would have missed everything.
Yeah, so I'm just, trying to stay actively involved. I'm going to get the nurses. When she said get the nurses, I'm asking if she needs stuff, water, just trying to keep her needs met the way that I could, making her say her affirmations out loud and all of this type of stuff, and reminding her, and then having her say it, because I think that it's good whenever somebody saying something to you, but it's also good when you can tell yourself it. I think that it triggers something differently in your brain. If it was holding her hand or walking around those walls with her. I kid you not though, like some moments to me were really funny, but I had to keep my composure and not laugh at her. There was this, I remember this one moment when she was standing up and she was having a contraction, and I remember when she started bouncing up and down or whatever. It was just like her face and all this type of stuff. Like, I'm just wanna die laughing. Sometimes when I want to laugh or smile, like I kind of just try to turn my back or whatever.
So fellas, take note because.
So
take note.
It was some funny moments or whatever. That's the thing too. So I'm just trying to be conscious of, you know, like what I'm doing or saying, and that's why I'm staying awake with her. I want to experience it with her too. You know, if I could take half of the contractions and let her take half of them,
no.
Not all of them though. I would have, you know, when it would have got hard. You know, and she couldn't do it no more, I'd say, okay, like, you could tag me in if that was possible.
As time went on, my contractions got stronger, and I was still in triage. And we were so confused, like, why haven't I gone upstairs? And thankfully, one of the nurses came and explained basically that all of the women that came in that night, their water had broken early and they all wanted epidurals, so they all went upstairs as soon as possible because they were, you know, getting things popping. And because I wanted to go natural, they kind of just let me chill downstairs. And at first I was a little like, okay, but when I spoke to my doula, which she's familiar with the hospital that I was at, she was like, that's actually a good thing because it's less intervention, less pressure when it comes to medicines and stuff like that, because as soon as they would have admitted me upstairs, more than likely they would have been like, oh, so we want you to start Pitocin, we want you to start this, this, and this. And because my birth plan was to go natural, she was like, this is actually a good thing. So I think the next time the nurse checked me was probably 4 hours later. And at that point, I had only gone to 5 centimeters, I believe. I feel like, yeah, so every 4 hours it was like only 1 centimeter, and that was rough. Like, I just knew the stronger the contractions were, the closer I was to pushing out my son, but that was not the case. And I was getting a little frustrated because the pain. I had a focal point, which was my son's ultrasound, and also a scripture. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I actually had a number of scriptures that I would just speak out, speak to myself or tell myself. I also had my doula made me a book of affirmations. I just had to encourage myself because, girl, I was going natural, so I had to talk myself up. So, an eternity later, 17 hours. Finally, the nurse came back in the room and she was like, you have a nurse, you have a room, we're gonna go ahead and admit you. So that was actually at 6 p.m. We checked into triage at 2 a.m., I would say 2:30 a.m. And it wasn't until 6 p.m. that we were able to go upstairs. And at this point, my contractions were booming, like, oh, oh, gee, oh, oh, like, they were rough.
So once we got up to labor and delivery, like these contractions were so intense or whatever. So she was breathing and I'd get like in front of the bed and I'm just holding her hands, looking at her, like breathing with her and all of this stuff and just helping as much as I can. Not really thinking that, like, I mean, I'm doing this, but like, am I really even helping? I felt like I was helpless. Like I couldn't even really do nothing because like, as much as you're encouraging and all this type of stuff, like, I know
helps.
She's still
it still helps.
Feeling this pain. I'm just like, you know, like, it's okay. And I'm giving her this little ball to squeeze and stuff like that, playing the music and all of this. And I'm just like, and every once in a while, you know, it's some stuff that she just like,
get away from
me.
Like,
you know, like the smell is just too much. Like I must have was trying to eat
some tuna, y'all, tuna.
My tuna probably went bad after all that.
Me and my nurse were just like, no, you gotta go.
So anyway, the mint smell or whatever.
That helped. Yeah,
it was helping. It was good downstairs, and then you was like it was too much.
It was too much. Yeah, I had a diffuser. That was one thing that I researched that helps during labor and delivery. And what was the scent I had? Peppermint. I think I had peppermint.
No, eucalyptus.
I was using that downstairs in Triage, and then when we moved upstairs, it was a lot because, like, just your senses, stuff just annoys you at that point because you're in pain. So yeah, that was definitely one thing that was overwhelmed or too much. And then I had chills, and then I would get hot, and then I would get cold. So I had a blanket nearby, and then I had water, ice water. It was an experience, I will say. So the nurse was in contact with my doctor, and he had told her that he wanted me to start Pitocin. Now, if you guys don't know anything about Pitocin, Pitocin is basically the artificial hormone of oxytocin. And oxytocin is what naturally helps with contractions. So they recommend Pitocin for people who aren't getting consistent contractions or to kickstart labor. I think they also use Pitocin whenever they induce labor. I think that's the same thing that they use. And so because my contractions were back to back, they weren't in a consistent like wave. They wanted them to be every minute or every 2 minutes and be consistent, but mine were back to back, then a break, back to back, then a break. And y'all, that was rough, okay? Because those back to back contractions, listen, and at that point, like I said, it was 17 hours later. I was just so tired. I hadn't slept in over, I would say, more than 24 hours because we never went to sleep the night before. Yeah, I was just exhausted at this point. So one of the doctors that works very closely with my doctor ended up coming and just checking on me, and he actually was witness to my contractions and how intense they were. So we're talking, and finally when my contraction passed, he was like, why don't you want to do an epidural? Like, I see how strong these contractions are you sure? And I'm like, I mean, I've been doing it this long, like I feel like I can keep going. And that was my goal. It's just like, what's another hour? What's another 30 minutes? That's what I kept telling myself. Once they checked my cervix, after 17 hours, I was only 6 centimeters dilated, y'all. Only 6. Like I said, my contractions were OD, like insane. And the doctor and the nurse were just saying that more than likely it'll be another 3 to 4 hours until I hit 10 centimeters, just based off of how my contractions were going. At that point, I was just super discouraged. I was like, another 3 to 4 hours? Are you kidding me? Like, I'm tired. Like, I need this baby to be out of me. I'm ready to push, okay? But that wasn't in the cards. After he told me that, I was like, I think I want to do an epidural. Like, after he said 3 to 4 hours, y'all, I just knew, like, I wasn't going to make it. I was so tired. So I talked to Cyril, and he was like, whatever you feel like you need to do, it's up to you. But, you know, you wrote in the birth plan, he reminded me that, and I was like, I know, but I'm just so tired. I just kept saying, I'm so exhausted, I just want to go to sleep. I talked to the nurse, she was like, it's only gonna last, what'd she say? 15 seconds. It's not gonna be painful. The only thing that you'll feel is like a burning pinch, and that's about it. At that point, I just didn't want to feel any more pain. And so the anesthesiologist came in and she talked me through everything, and we ended up going in between my contractions. It did not hurt. It was like uncomfortable, but it wasn't, in comparison to the contractions that I was feeling, it was a cakewalk. Like, it was okay. That started to kick in, and y'all, I was able to sleep. They had me lay on my side with a peanut ball, and basically that just helps position the baby. Now,
Worshiping. We worshiping you right in here, boy. So brave.
I forgot to note, so basically the reason, so at that point, the baby was head down. He had always been head down for a majority of my pregnancy, but the thing is, his face was up. And so that makes it hard for him to come out of the birth canal. Because my water had broke early, I didn't have the fluid to help turn him. So that was why my contractions was just really, really hard as well. So the peanut ball was to help put him into position. So I think I went to sleep again for a little bit, and at that point I really felt the contractions, and I started to think, like, is the epidural still working? But it just basically meant like that's where the baby was, and that's where the contraction was going. So after a little bit, I had called them back in because I was in pain, and I had told her, I was like, this feels uncomfortable. Can I lay on my back because it just hurts? And so she was like, yeah, we can, but let me check your cervix just to see where you are. And at that point, I was 10 centimeters, and she was like, oh, are you ready to push the baby out? Like, it's time. And we both were like, okay. Just to, I guess, fast forward to, well, not really fast forward, but now it's time to push.
Now it's time to push, and so the nurse was checking her, like, about to check, and she didn't even have to, like, check or put her fingers down there. Like, she, like, looked, and, like, you can see, like, the baby's hair, and, like, I walked past, and I looked, and, like, I can see his head, too, and I'm like, but it's a hair right there. Like, and so we waiting on doc and all that type of stuff, and so we getting prepared. I wanted to have a GoPro and video the whole thing.
They made a sign.
But they have like a no video policy or something like that, so we ended up not being able to. We took a little picture right before we started, and
we texted everybody. We were like 10 centimeters.
Yeah, and like we on FaceTime calling our parents and our family, like, look, it's about to happen. Like, and then 20 minutes later, we call them back, like, the baby's here.
And he has a huge family, so we was calling everybody. Y'all know
everybody was on house
pandemic
party
situation. We just couldn't have anybody there, so shout out to FaceTime and house party.
Yeah.
But when it came to me actually pushing, I didn't feel nothing, y'all. Like, nothing. They had to let me know when I was getting a contraction for me to push, and originally the doctor was like, push, and I didn't know. I thought I had to breathe when I was pushing, but I guess he wanted me to hold my breath and push, and so it took me a little while to be able to understand.
Right, I'm pushing, and I'm trying to explain it to her as if I've done it before. I'm like, you gotta hold your breath. Like, you gotta push like this. And I'm pushing and we breathing and I'm pushing. Like, as if I almost pooed on myself.
Oh my gosh. And finally, what did you say, 9 pushes? Or
I don't
like,
know. So,
I don't know.
yeah, so just say the first round of pushes where you was breathing out, like, it was probably like 5 pushes during that contraction, and like she wasn't doing it right, so we wasn't really making no progress. And then like you can kind of see it, like it kind of like goes like this or whatever, and she pushing once she start doing it the right way, and then like once that contraction over, it kind of go back in a little bit, and then like she must have started pushing, and we might have like 4 pushes, like you see the head like start to come out.
And the lady asked, or the nurse was like, his head's right here, you want to touch it? So I reached down and I touched it, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then a few more pushes and he came out.
And how he came out, like the head come out kind of slow, and about as soon as he get like right past that head, the whole body just whoosh.
And that's one thing I did feel. I felt once his body left mine, and it just felt like not a vacuum, but well, kind of like it just popped out. I just felt the pressure of that, and that's the only thing that I felt. And then he cut the umbilical cord.
Yeah, the umbilical cord was like chewy, like I had to like almost like saw through. I thought it was just gonna be like a bloop, but it was like
maybe they were dull scissors.
Hopefully it was brand new scissors.
I know, right? And then my afterbirth came out. I didn't feel that. They give me Kyrie, and I put him, do skin to skin that first hour, very important. And the doctor, he's sewing me up. I don't feel nothing, thankfully.
I'm looking at all of this.
Like, thank you. But yeah, and we just looking at Kyrie, and I cry, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're here. Like, it's so crazy that you go 9 months not seeing, of course you see the ultrasounds, but not seeing the baby, and then he's here and you see him, and yeah, it was an amazing experience. And
yeah, I'm just looking at him and I'm hearing him cry, and like it was like emotional to the point where like I'm laughing, like you know how you laugh, you laugh like I can't believe it. It's like I look at him, and then I just like turn away and I'm like laughing, like bro, like I can't believe it's a baby right here, like. And I'm really thinking, like, just like from the very start of labor, like, look how far we didn't really, like, this didn't really happen. Like,
baby Kyrie made his way into the world. We are so happy, so just grateful. Like, the following days, y'all, I would just look at him and start crying. Like, he's really mine. Like,
so perfect. Look at him.
But yeah, we are just so thrilled and enjoying parenthood. This one here, he's so perfect, and I'm just so grateful, y'all. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys found it helpful. If you guys did, please be sure to thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I am going to be creating some motherhood content, some postpartum tips and things that I'm learning, so be sure to subscribe to my channel to stay tuned for that. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you guys later.
Bye.